Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting this June 17th, 2014. Item number 1.
Consider approval of Finance Committee minutes of June 3rd, 2014.
Any additions or corrections? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion passes. Item number 2.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments June 2nd, 2014 through June 13th, 2014.
I know we had a meeting of the purchasing committee. Leanne, are you reporting on that, or?
I think I
Yes, she
am,
is.
but I'm not
Okay.
exactly sure what I need to do. So
It's,
we met earlier today. I know that we always say that. And we approved claims for all city departments.
So you'll make a motion to approve the claims?
Therefore, I will make a motion that we approve all claims.
Thank you. We have a second. Are there any questions or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion passes. Item number 3.
Consider approval of awarding the lowest bid for concrete to Mid-Continent for 3,500-pound concrete, 3,500-pound concrete high early, 3,000-pound concrete and flow fill to Muskogee Ready Mix for the fiscal year 2014-2015, 500 sacks Portland dry mason to Fudge's Freight, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stewart's not here.
Mr. Prague.
Mr. Prague.
How are you doing? Chairman and committee, members of the committee, good afternoon. We just discussed this item in the purchasing committee, and we recommend approval for the lowest bid of concrete to Mid-Continent for 3,500 pound and 3,500 pound concrete high early, and 3,000 pound concrete and the flow fill to Muskogee Ready Mix. But on the other item, the 500 pound sacks of Portland dry mason to Fudge's Freight, we decided to reject that bid as the freight was not included in there. And this firm is out of Texas, and they had not provided us with a figure how much they will charge us to send a sack of cement here. And it was also discussed that we will get it cheaper at Lowe's. So we recommend approval of the concrete except the dry cement.
Okay, so you're recommending approval of to Ready Mix, Muskogee Ready Mix of the concrete?
Yes. What we are requesting approval is, Deputy Mayor, is for Mid-Continent for the 3,500 pound concrete and the 3,500 concrete high early, and for the Muskogee Ready Mix, it's 3,000 pound concrete and the flow fill.
Okay. And those are the lowest bids?
Yes, sir.
Right.
And the tabulation sheets have been provided for you.
Do we have any questions?
Move for approval of striking the 500-pound Portland dry to Fudge's Freight. And
Okay.
accepting the remainder.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, do we have any discussion? Everybody understands what we're voting on. We're deleting the Fudge Freight, the sacks. Okay, roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion passes. Item number 4.
Consider approval of lowest bid for the following road materials: aggregate 3-inch pit run, 12-inch pit run, and limestone screenings to Kempstone. Number 2, cover material to APAC, asphalt sand alternate number 1, and fill sand alternate number 2 to Tonto Construction. Concrete type B and C to Glover and Associates. Hot cold patching material to Tulsa Asphalt, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Prague.
Deputy Mayor, this is to build up our stockpile for materials to undertake street repairs over the fiscal year 2014-2015, and we recommend approval for aggregate and 3-inch pit run, the 12-inch pit run, and limestone screenings to Kempstone. Number 2, cover material to APAC, asphalt sand alternate 1 and fill sand alternate 2 to Tonto Construction. This is asphaltic concrete type B and C to Glover Associates. Hot cold patching material to Tulsa Asphalt. The aggregate is the 1.5 inch base run which we use to repair our streets. And the limestone screenings is something which we use to fill up. We used to fill in summertime when there's bleeding and the oil comes up, and we use those screenings to absorb that oil and roll them in so you have a better riding surface. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Recommend approval.
So your recommendations are all the low bids?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion passes. Item number 5.
Consider approval of a renewal professional services agreement for fiscal year July 1st, 2014 through June 30th, 2015 with Mr. Michael Gillard, attorney at law, to provide representation for the city in workers' compensation court or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is a renewal of our current professional services agreement with Mike Gilliard. As the agenda item states, he has, for the last several years, handled our workers' compensation litigation. One of the reasons we have used outside counsel for this process is the workers' compensation court is in Tulsa, and so we have always saved a lot of money in mileage by hiring an attorney that is in Tulsa. Rather than one in Muskogee and being charged the IRS rate of 55 cents a mile back and forth. Generally, we've saved quite a bit of money from doing it that way, and so I'm recommending to continue this service. We've also been satisfied with Mr. Gilliard's representation. He did a good job in communicating with me as well as Jeff from Alliance Benefit Group. The money that is allocated to pay for his fee does come out of the general workers' compensation fund that is set aside as a separate line item rather than coming from the city attorney's professional services account. So this is a separate agenda line item, budget line item, excuse me. And I recommend approval. Happy to answer any questions.
We have any questions?
Move for approval. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion passes. Item number 6.
Consider approval of a 5-year non-exclusive agreement between Southwestern Bell Telephone Company, doing business as AT&T Oklahoma, and the City of Muskogee, providing for the remittance of a 5% fee of the gross revenues to the city from the sale of IP-enabled video services within the corporate limits of the city.
Mr. Tucker.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, this is quite an exciting item. As many of you know, we do have a franchise agreement with Suddenlink to provide cable services within the city, and in exchange for that, they provide us with 5% payment quarterly on the gross revenues that they receive. AT&T is offering its ATT UVerse service, is going to be offering it within Muskogee. About 60 days ago, I had a conversation with the area manager, Craig Cromley, who I believe is here tonight and is here to answer some of your questions. Mr. Cromley, if you could come to the front. The issue with the agreement relating to AT&T for providing this type of service is that it is not governed by the Telecommunications Act such that it requires a franchise agreement. Therefore, AT&T is not required to remit any fees to the city. But as part of their corporate structure, they've made the decision to enter into these agreements in all municipalities where their service is provided.
Right.
You can look at this something like DirecTV or Dish Network, which are additional TV services that are provided even within the city that the city does not receive any revenue from those services. Now, we don't believe that this is going to have any impact on the budget for individuals who transfer or switch services from Suddenlink to AT&T UVerse because of the 5% remains the same. However, any users who currently are subscribed with DirecTV or Dish who transfer to AT&T UVerse, we will then see some additional revenue for that. Now, it is proprietary from AT&T as to how many subscribers generally convert, the percentage of that. And I believe that's not even known to Mr. Cromley here during our other discussions. However, one of the things that this agreement does is it also provides us with two channels for programming. Similar to our agreement with Suddenlink, we have Channel 14, and then we have Channel 15, which is the educational channel that we license with the public school system, Muskogee Public Schools. We will also, under the AT&T agreement, have two PEG channels, one for city services and one for educational services. Now, Mr. Cromley, if you could talk a little bit about the technical aspects of the AT&T UVerse product.
Okay, I won't get real technical. First of all, thank you so much for allowing us to be here and roll this product out. We've spent about the last 12 or 14 years, as you know, expanding our wireless network extensively through a lot of venues and a lot of investment. The AT&T UVerse video product it operates on what we call the UVerse platform, which is an internet protocol platform. It is not a cable service. It's not a telephone service. It is a internet delivery platform. So everything is connected to the internet. And quite frankly, in 5 to 6 years, the IP network will replace the traditional switches that we operate now. That's our goal by 2020, is to go to a full IP network, because, as we all know, if anything has an internet or an IP address, it can be connected anywhere. If I wanted to watch the current running of King of Queens right now, I could pull out my smartphone, hook into my UVerse app, and enjoy the live television right there. Right now, the plan is to deploy the service in about 25 to 35% of the community. The build-out is currently happening. Where those areas are going to be, where the product's going to be deployed at this time, is proprietary even to me. I can't tell you. I don't know where they're going to be. If you remember, in 2001, 2002, when we started rolling out DSL, that was the first broadband product that we offered. We started in the middle of the community at the main central office and built out. We have a lot more flexibility with the UVerse platform because it is fiber-based, so we can go out. And in some communities, for instance, in Bartlesville, UVerse is not in downtown Bartlesville and the immediate vicinity, but it is out on the outer edges of the community. There are other communities where we've started in the middle and built out. I'm sure that's all for a there's good reason behind that from an engineering perspective. I don't know what that is. As soon as the product is fully deployed in our initial rollout, we'll obviously be advertising where those areas are and what customers can tap into. We also anticipate that this deployment will create a few jobs in the community. Our UVerse technicians are not the same technicians that currently visit residences and businesses. That deliver broadband or telephone service. They are strictly video technicians. So, I don't know how many jobs that is, but I know that right now we can't hire them fast enough in Oklahoma City and Tulsa. So, I'm sure that we'll see a few jobs added here in the community as well.
And just to finish up this conversation, Mr. Cromley will be here to answer any of the technical questions, as I mentioned. But we are very excited to be working with them, and I recommend approval of this item.
We probably need to roll it out in Ward 1 first. Since we started the streets in Ward 4, we could start this in Ward 1. I think, well, anyway, we'll go there later.
Took the honest approach.
Yeah, definitely. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cromley.
Move for approval.
Have a motion, have a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion passes. Item number 7.
Consider approval of a resolution authorizing the continuation of an account fund for the City of Muskogee entitled Solid Waste Improvements and designating the manner in which said account shall be operated for upcoming budget year 2014-2015 or take other necessary action.
Mr. Prog, you taking this one?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Chairman and members of the committee, consider approval of Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, consider approval of a resolution authorizing the continuation of the account fund for City of Muskogee entitled Solid Waste Improvements and designating the manner in which the said account shall be operated for the upcoming budget year 2014-2015. This account is entitled Solid Waste Improvements, is financed by means of deposit of $2.50 from each monthly service fee collected pursuant to Section 82-132 of the Muskogee City Code. And the monies will be deposited in the account will be used for the purpose of maintenance, repair, and improvement of the solid waste system within the City of Muskogee. This is paid by residential customers, which number approximately about 13,000. And this has been increased by $1 from last year. This increase was deemed necessary to purchase 2 sanitation trucks at about $120,000 each, and the remainder will go to replace and repair the polycarts which we use for trash services. And the solid waste collection fund is the 212 number. So I recommend staff recommends approval for this, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Are you saying the fees are going up $1 or they have already gone up $1?
Yes, they've already gone up $1.
They've already gone up.
Gone up
Okay.
$1.
How much of the money was left from this current fiscal year in that account?
I'll have to answer that question. I'll find out and I'll get back to you on that, Councilman.
Other questions? We'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion passes, and that concludes the Finance Committee meeting.
We'll now take our Public Works Committee meeting, and I don't know that I've done this one before. Item number 1.
Consider approval of Public Works Committee minutes of June 3rd, 2014.
Consider the Public Works minutes for June 3rd, 2014. Is there additions or corrections? If
Move for
not,
approval.
Got a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 2.
Receive report from Public Works Pollution Control Division on updating municipal stormwater requirements from Richard Smith of INCOG or take other necessary action.
Prague, are you taking that one as well?
Yes, sir. Chairman and members of the committee, I have Mr. George Kingston here. He'll introduce Mr. Richard Smith for the. I think Ron's taking that for him.
Good afternoon. My name's Ron Bladen. I'm the city's environmental technician, and I've asked Richard Smith to come out here today and to address the city council due to new requirements that the DEQ is going to require of the city and of the companies and the residents here. This probably will require a change in ordinance when these changes go through, and I would like for Richard to explain this to you, and I have some handouts.
I like being introduced twice. That's great.
Give us just a second to get the handouts.
Thank you, Ron. Well, thank you very much for allowing me to present to you today. The first page that you have on the handout is a brief summary, kind of a text summary of the essential points of this stormwater permit. And then the next 2 pages are pretty much my talking points for today, a restatement of this, but I'm going to go through these in a little bit of detail. What you have is a permit that originated with EPA about 1990. Now, this is a water quality permit. This is not a flood control permit. It's not something that your floodplain manager would be involved in on a daily basis, because this is all about water quality. And there were 34 cities in Oklahoma and 5 counties that were designated as permittees back in 1999. This permit has had a slow start to it, and it finally got what they call a general permit, which means that since everybody has to do essentially the same thing, the state Department of Environmental Quality said, we're going to create this general permit, and everybody just applies for coverage to this. So the permit frequently is referred to as OKR 04. And that just means that all the cities that have this stormwater permit, this water quality protection permit, are permitted under OKR 04. There's a lot of acronyms in this permit program, and it'll drive you crazy, but that's one of the big ones. The permit has a number of different requirements. Essentially, every city that's permitted has to implement many dozens of different activities. There's so many that they have to place them in 6 different categories of activities. They call those minimum control measures, and they're just the first one is public education and outreach. The second is public participation. The third is called illicit discharge detection and elimination. What that means essentially is that you have to look for pollution and solve the problem. The fourth is for active construction. The city has obligations under the permit to control pollution from active construction sites. Then the fifth one is post-construction, and that means essentially how the land is going to be used after construction is over. So that means really in EPA's view what they call low-impact development. And I don't know how a lot of the cities in Oklahoma are just coming up to speed with low impact. Everybody calls it LID, low impact development. And those are things like rain gardens, things that if you can put pervious surfaces out that will absorb the water and reduce the runoff from the site. Those are the types of things that are low impact development. And that's what that fifth control measure is about, controlling runoff from a site. The sixth one is called good housekeeping. And what that means is that all the city-owned facilities that you have, your maintenance yards and that sort of thing, you have to practice what you preach. So if you're telling the citizens out there through this program and all the things that you have to implement called best management practices, if you tell the citizens that you have to do this, and the businesses and the construction site operators and all, that they have to stop pollution at their sites, you have to do the same thing at your own city facilities. So that sixth one, the last one, is called good housekeeping. Now, the reason why this is called a Phase 2 permit for you is the Phase 1 really hit Oklahoma City and Tulsa back in 1990. That was over 20 years ago, and they've had a permit for a long time. Plus, there were 11 categories of industrial activities. So that was the Phase 1 program. In 1999, about 9 years later, EPA promulgated new regulations for Phase 2, and that's where it picked up in Oklahoma, these 34 cities, 5 counties, and then there's Department of Transportation and Turnpike Authority, a couple of military bases, and University of Oklahoma. So those are the permittees right now. These permits cycle every 5 years. They're supposed to be renewed by DEQ. So on the next permit cycle, there will probably be 8 more permittees in Oklahoma. All of them, well, let's see. I think 6 cities and 2 new counties are going to be permitted in Oklahoma. But that's up to DEQ and EPA. They'll work that through, but they've got a draft list out. Now, the permit actually expired in 2010 because it started in 2005, so 5 years later, 2010, it expired. DEQ has not started the new permit cycle yet, and they're in a draft stage and they're working with EPA. One of the main reasons, as I understand it, is because of all the new changes that keep swirling around out there from EPA. There's been lawsuits from environmental groups all over the nation, and EPA has been under the gun through these court decisions that a lot of them they've been losing to change this permit program and make it tougher. Because in 2008, they had the National Academy of Sciences do a major evaluation of their nationwide program, and they found that there were many problems with it. A lot of it had to do with LID. There just wasn't enough good being done to solve water quality problems. So what EPA's been doing in the past few years is trying to beef this program up and trying to figure out exactly how to do it. And DEQ has been waiting to issue a revised permit pending how all this comes out with EPA. So here we are, poised with the draft is out there. EPA's already reviewed it. It's back at DEQ, and they're going to be negotiating with EPA on some fine-tuning of this permit program. Ultimately, what it's going to mean for Oklahoma is that if you're a permittee, you can expect a lot tougher requirements on you. These tougher requirements are going to go past public education type things, brochures and any kind of outreach that the staff has elected to do. It's going to get more into enforcement, inspection and enforcement, and also there's been a lot of new water quality studies that have been going on around the state. A lot of streams have been declared impaired. There's been specialized studies called TMDLs that set quantitative discharge limits in a watershed. And because you're a permittee, you have to abide by those new studies, those TMDL requirements. And the bottom line is this permit program is just going to be a lot tougher. The staff is going to have to get more educated. Not that they aren't. I mean, that's our job with INCOG and the state to bring everybody up to speed. And so all the permittees in Oklahoma have got to get to a higher level of applicability on how they run their programs. They've got to learn more technical. They've got to apply, and they've got to do the hard part of enforcement. And one of the issues that are faced by cities often is the city councils and the city management get a little bit detached from what the staff has to do on a daily basis. That's the reason why I'm here tonight, is I want to make sure that you're given some basic information about this permit program so that when you have questions about this, and you'll hear about this if you have friends in the construction, the building, the development community, the planning, the zoning, the engineering, all the things that go into growing a community, this program is beginning to really penetrate into. So just like with LID, you're going to hear a lot about that in the next few years. And so I'm here tonight to give you some basic information about this permit, let you know where it's coming from. This is a mandatory permit program. It's a federal permit that's worked its way down to the state, and then the state, by issuing the permit, pushes the responsibility for compliance and water quality protection on the local level. And that's what your staff is involved in. So I guess at that point I'll stop and answer any questions.
Well, thank you very much. What would be helpful for us if the state would put together like model ordinances that we can adopt to do some of this. I know that, a lot of these requirements, states and other states provide model ordinances for cities to actually adopt as part of their business practice. That would be very helpful to us. If you could take that back, that would be great.
You bet. And in fact, what we have done in the past with our Green Country Stormwater Alliance, which you're a member of, we have formed an ordinance work group. Now, the last time we really had to do this was when the initial ordinances were developed. So we're anticipating having to resurrect the ordinance work group and do exactly what you're talking about, get some model ordinances out. It's a little premature right now to do that because we got to wait for that permit to gel and to get finalized by DEQ. And at that point, we're going to have a fairly short fuse to get those ordinances revised and updated, probably about a year. And that's not a long time to go through all the ordinances. One of the requirements in there, for example, going back to LID, is that the staff is going to have to go through every code and every requirement that the city has right now, find any barriers to LID and remove them, or justify why you want to keep them. For example, no sidewalks. Now, a lot of cities like sidewalks. It's public safety. But, in fact, all that impervious surface does create excess runoff. So a city would have to decide how they're going to deal with that, because EPA looks on that only as a water quality problem. Narrower streets is another example. No curbs and gutters. So cities can adopt strategies for those things with respect to water quality, but you also have to weigh public safety and fire protection. You know, fire trucks need room enough to turn around and that sort of thing. So those are really tough things to have to go through, and we've got to get started just as soon as that permit gets finalized. So,
from a timeline perspective, where are we in terms of the permit actually having an impact on the local municipalities?
Well, the permit actually has been out since about 2005. About 2005 or 6 is when they got started. Now, frankly, all the cities in Oklahoma went after what I call the low-hanging fruit. They just really went after the easier things to do in the permit, and you left some of the harder things like the LID. It wasn't well defined by EPA. They were still trying to get their feet on the ground about what to do. So all the cities all across the nation decided, well, let's kind of postpone LID and some of these harder things. So the staff began a program of, once the ordinances were in place, then they started going after on the enforcement, especially of construction sites and some of their own facilities, the household pollutant collection events that you do, and the recycling centers. Those are wonderful programs. And the fact that you're doing your own program is really a good testament to, that's an excellent use of the stormwater fee and the use of your resources, because that's one of those things, in my opinion, that's a really tangible way to keep pollutants out of the watersheds. If you don't collect those things like you're doing, then guess what happens? They get dumped in the gutters and in the roadside ditches. So those are the things that the city has been doing, and yet you'd probably, I don't actually have the list of the BMPs that they do. You'd probably have to get with them and get a summary of the different activities that they've been doing. Every city has a different flavor of this permit. So I live in Bixby. Bixby's program is different than Muskogee's. They all have to do similar things, but there's a lot of localization, if you will, that you can do on the program. The actual permit itself will be finalized either at the end of this year or the very first part of next year. That's the latest projection from DEQ. At that point, so we're looking at, 6-7 months from now, when the new permit will be finalized, and there'll be a few months to reapply for it, organize what you're going to do to change based upon the new permit requirements, and then just hit the ground running. And DEQ is letting everybody know that they expect all these existing permittees to have a fully implemented program in place now. There's no more grace period, if you will.
Is it likely that the new permit will come with additional costs to the cities?
Cost is always a tough one when you're looking into the future, into a new permit that doesn't have a real definition to it yet. I've got draft copies of this thing in my office, and there will be more inspections, there will be more enforcement, there will be more outreach, more technical work, technically exacting work, like going through all the codes. Lots more staff time. It looks like, from the drafts that I've seen, that we're not going to be having to do mandatory monitoring. That means actually filling bottles with, samples and running them to a lab. There will be more of that, but it's not going to be mandated that every week or every month you have to do X number of streams to do that kind of sampling. Some states have adopted that. Oklahoma so far doesn't have it in this new permit, so at least we're not having to do that level of it. But really, a lot of the extra cost and more intensity of the program is really on the staff time.
Richard, thank you for your update.
Okay.
I understand that we do not need action on this. It's just a advisement.
All right, I'm just here to give you the bad news. That's my job.
Well, I guess I'd say thank you for bringing the bad news.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, item number 3.
Discuss a professional services agreement with Retail Attractions LLC to provide economic development consulting services specifically for retail development or take other necessary action.
Howard Brown.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, the city currently has a contract with the Muskogee Area Chamber of Commerce to provide retail development services on behalf of the city. That contract is due to expire on June 30th, 2014. What the city needs is a retail development consultant with expertise in economic development. The expertise, we currently don't have retail development consulting expertise on staff, and I'm hoping that we select a company that can do a couple of things, attract certain kinds of retail with experience in Oklahoma that can attract the big box retailers and national restaurant chains and those kinds of things that we're looking for. The currently Retail Attractions LLC, they have a contract with Muskogee Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm wanting to enter into at least get your authorization to enter into an agreement with them to negotiate a professional service agreement contract with them in an amount not to exceed $48,000 for a period of 1 year. We have a lot of things going on that's in the pipeline right now, and so that's what I'm asking for. That's my recommendation.
So we would need a motion then to authorize you to do that?
Yes.
To negotiate that agreement?
Yes, sir.
And then the agreement would come back to us as an agenda item
Well,
later?
we can bring the agreement back. This authorization is right now we have some critical things occurring, as some of you probably know or heard or whatever. And what I'm trying to do is keep that continuity there. I don't want to change horses in midstream.
So you're saying then if it's less than 48,000, you'll just execute the agreement. If it's something different than that, you'd bring it back to us?
I'll come back to the city council.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there a discussion regarding? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 4.
Receive, report, and take action on approval of a one-year renewal of a cooperative agreement between the City of Muskogee and the Muskogee County Public Transit Authority for July 1, 2014 through June 30, 2015, subject to approval of the city's fiscal year 2014-2015 budget and allocation of funds in accordance with the same.
Mr. Brown.
Yes, Mayor, Council. The executive director contacted our office earlier. They're not feeling well, so they're not here to give a report tonight. I just wanted to see if you wanted to have them come back to the council, maybe at the next city council meeting on June 23rd, to give you a verbal update, or we could just, move the agenda.
On the 23rd, do we not already have a pretty full agenda?
Yes.
Accumulating?
Oh, yeah.
So do we want to wait and let them give that at a later date, or do we want it on for the 23rd?
Well, the way we've been doing it is, they give their presentations, and then we're going to be deliberating on this during the budget process. And so I don't foresee any issues with it. We currently provide the match to Muskogee Transit Authority, and I'm recommending that we continue the match, but we have to get through the budget with this. So it's your lead. Whatever you would like to do is fine with me. It's whatever the council.
Mayor, I would recommend moving forward on taking action to approve the agreement, and then what you can do is ask them to come in and give a end-of-year report in July when we don't have as many items on the agenda.
That would certainly work with me.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that would have opposition to that?
That works for me, but I remember the last time we approved this, we weren't provided any financial information. I know we got it at a later date, So I would definitely like to see some numbers on their operation.
Yeah, but last time also, David, and that's when we met at their facility and got an update and got pretty extensive financial information.
Yeah, we
got
did.
an operational report and so forth. Okay. Do we want to do that again, or do we want, given that there's two new council members, or do we want to just have them come to us and report in a July meeting? You have a thought on that?
I'm kind of with you. I think we have a heavy schedule right now. I'd rather go ahead and approve this cooperative agreement now, and then we can still follow up. I mean, this is something that's been here for a long time and ongoing, and we'll have plenty of time to review the operation and the numbers and get a comfort level with it. But it's my understanding that this does need to be approved for the budget, and I mean, we can't delay the budget. We've got to have it approved by the end of this month. So I would move to go ahead and approve this cooperative agreement between the City of Muskogee and Muskogee County Public Trust Authority.
I know there was something last time also regarding their annual audit, so I don't know what time they get their annual audit.
That was the problem last time. Their fiscal year, I can't remember if it's June 30th or December 31st.
It'd be September when they get their
threw
audit
us
back.
off.
September, yeah. I don't know that we shouldn't schedule it after their annual audit where we can actually see it at that time where it would be more beneficial to us.
Fine.
And the actual agreement is the same. The terms have not changed. This is just a renewal from that which was approved last year and the last several years.
Okay.
Just a point of clarification in your comment, David, you said Muskogee County Public Trust, and it's actually Muskogee County Public
Transit Authority. I'm sorry.
No problem.
I was reading quick and talking and looking at the same time.
Do we have a second?
Do
we have a second to that motion? Okay, yes, we do. Do we have discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 5.
Consider approval of an agreement with the Town of Porter by the Porter Public Works Authority, Oklahoma, for the sale of treated water, and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreement or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is our final rural water, outside water sales contract to be approved, and this is with the Town of Porter. Our total bill to date for them last year was $92,877. That's generally what we bring in revenue. The new agreement does not change the allocation from that which was signed 2 years ago at 5,998,960 gallons per month. There is a change as it relates to their ability to resell water. As you all may be aware, there is a dispute between the Town of Porter and the Town of Tallahassee for some past due amounts due on their water from a 2008 sale of water to Tallahassee that has not yet been paid. The resale of water violated the terms of our agreement as it was previously drafted. When I talked to their city attorney, who they had just hired, he informed me that they had been reselling water and told me about the issue. And he said that Porter had been reselling water to Tallahassee for about the last 35 years. And so this was, of course, it's a new thing. This was without our knowledge or consent. But as many of you will know, we only started having written contracts in about 2010 with our outside water. So I certainly don't think that the Town of Porter was doing anything in bad faith, but they were just continuing on what they had previously been done the last 35 years. So in that regard, we made a modification to the agreement to allow them to continue to resell water to Tallahassee. What we did provide is a restriction that they could not sell the water for amount in excess of what we were selling them for. We were selling the water to them, minus a reasonable administrative fee. Now, what we obviously don't want is for us to sell water to Porter and have them raise the rate substantially and make money off what we're selling them. So that's why we included that language within this contract. Now, the ability for them to charge a reasonable administrative fee, of course, they're having to do the billing for the town of Tallahassee, so I believe it's reasonable that they be able to recoup those expenses from billing in those. This contract also provides that the city is provided the ability to, at any time, go in and audit those books and audit their fee to make a determination if it is, in fact, reasonable. And, of course, since this is a new term, we will be watching closely for this agreement. Happy to answer any questions, but I do recommend this approval of this agreement.
Question, and I think I know the answer to it, but I'm assuming this does not include a cost of living adjustment in the agreement? This
No.
is just like the previous agreement?
Yes, all the agreements reference Schedule A.
Okay, and when will you be bringing back to us a recommendation, or when will you be bringing back to us the wording that we need to do the cost of living adjustment in these commercial water contract sales? Is that a July kind of a thing?
Well, the only thing I do is draft the resolutions depending on what the numbers are given to me, on what the recommended rate is. So I know that the city clerk, in conjunction with the city manager, has been studying the rates for rural water in comparison to other municipalities. And as I understand it, they are will be making a recommendation probably in July toward the end of it.
Toward
of course,
the base rate?
Yeah, toward the base rate.
But I'm talking about the annual adjuster, cost of living adjustment amount.
That'll be contained in the resolution.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you
So
have any idea when that information will be back?
It'll come back in July, and we'll bring to council in August.
Okay, all right.
And so I will prepare the resolution, and it will have the accelerator for the cost of living, which CPI is, I think, what you're referring to, Mayor.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
What did I go? Cost of living.
Cost of- yeah.
CPI.
CPI.
Yeah, CPI. Because I think total water contract, you're talking about $1.5 million, aren't you? Total. Not just this one, but all of them.
Oh,
added
yes,
together.
yes.
So you're talking about a couple
Yes.
percent times $1.5
Yes.
million.
Because this one's just shy of
Yearly.
100,000.
Right, okay. Other comments or questions, or entertain a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item 6.
Discuss the use of UTV, utility test vehicle, or ROV, recreation off-highway vehicle on city streets and provide direction to staff and take necessary action.
Okay, Dan Hall, Matt Beasy, and we also have someone in the audience that would like to speak to this item as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Councilman Hall had contacted me regarding doing some research and placing this item on for general discussion regarding the use of UTVs, ATVs, and golf carts on city streets. Currently, state statute prohibits the use of any of these type vehicles on city streets, but does carve out an exception to allow a municipality to craft an ordinance to allow these to be used on city streets based upon the city's what they see as their needed or necessary restrictions or prohibitions upon their use. In doing research, I've begun looking at different municipalities. They can be all over the board on how restrictive or how non-restrictive they want to be, whether they want to charge a city permit fee, what kind of licensing or signage they want on the signs, what types of streets they want to be on. I simply bring this matter before you to let you know that as a municipality, we can, in fact, craft an ordinance to allow this. And Mr. Alan Jackson, who works for one of our local companies, is here to speak on this more specifically as it relates to his business. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Staff currently is not bringing this with a recommendation. We're simply looking for direction on whether you would like us to move forward in beginning to craft an ordinance for discussion.
Mr. Beasy, would you, before you step down, would you give us a couple of examples of what a UTV and an ROV are?
If you think about it, a UTV, sometimes they're called mules. It's basically an ATV, a four-wheeled vehicle, but it usually has 2 or more seats and a more standard steering wheel setup. So it's like a golf cart on steroids that can be used off-road. In looking at this, I did go a little bit more broad from what Councilman Hall had looked at because most of the rules talk about UTVs, golf carts, and ATVs synonymously. So if we move forward on this and we begin to craft an ordinance, we would want to decide how expansive we want to be. If you want to include a traditional four-wheeler, the more current mule or UTV, as they're called, or golf carts as well. We have as much latitude as we want because the state gives us that latitude, and I'd be happy to answer any questions beyond that.
How fast do these usually go?
Some of the UTVs and ATVs can probably exceed 50 miles an hour or more.
Some of them, but what
Correct.
do the most of them go?
That I can't answer. I would assume, looking in the restrictions, if I can look at it from that direction, most of the communities where I've seen these being implemented won't allow them to go on roads that have a speed limit in excess of 25 miles an hour. So basically residential streets for safety purposes. We don't want them out running up and down roads where they become a distraction or a danger.
Yeah.
Did Councilman Hall just want you to update everybody on that, or does he want to have specific input to it?
He wanted me to put this up so Mr. Jackson could speak and council could decide whether they wanted to move forward and direct staff to actually begin doing more substantive research and construction of an ordinance.
Well, let's hear what Mr. Jackson has to say. Alan, give us your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes, sir.
My name is Alan Jackson. My address is 2275 South 66th Place West, zip code 74401. And I want to thank you guys for allow me the opportunity to come over and speak to you about this matter. Being in the business, of course I do have some personal reasons for wanting to get this thing approved. But I think that these machines are, as Mr. Bees was saying, they're capable of exceeding 50 miles an hour or more. I think the ideal would be to maybe 35-mile-an-hour streets or less, not getting on the turnpike or anything like that. Just in Muskogee County alone, last year there was probably 960 UTVs, ATVs, and golf carts sold last year. And who does it help? Well, you got the retired people, families, and it generates additional income for the city. You got your registration fees, your tax fees, and things like that. Is that going to be enough money to help solve the city's problems? Probably not. But I think the additional income that it will generate is that from these sales of these UTVs and ATVs, you'll have people buying accessories. They'll have to have turn signals, rear mirrors, different type of tires, because the tires will need to be street worthy. And for off-road vehicles, the tires will wear out very quickly on streets. So you'd have benefit, of course, dealerships, and of course Walmarts, tag agencies, tire stores. You got additional insurance that would be required probably for these vehicles for them to be on the road. Banks would also benefit. So it's just going to be a win-win for everybody. And I think Muskogee as a whole, being kind of a tourist town, I think it'd be an attraction if you can come to Muskogee and drive around on your UTV or your ATV. It's done in like Arizona and places like that. I mean, it's standard practice for them to get on the UTV or ATV and just drive it right into town. And I think, you will have farmers and ranchers who would be able to take their UTVs, not only from, just on the farm, but they'd already be able to drive them into town. And I think it would be great for Muskogee.
What would be a typical registration and licensing fee? Are you talking $50, $100?
I threw some numbers around, and we came with some numbers, maybe $25 registration fees, $20 tag or sticker fee, those type of things.
Okay.
Right. And on that 960 units, you're talking $43,000 a year for registration. Like I said, it's not going to solve the problems that we have as a city, but it would be a start. And that's not to count the additional revenues that I think these sales would generate.
So you're not necessarily asking us to do anything tonight or today.
Yes, I am. I'd like for you to.
You're wanting us to take this under advisement because we don't have one thing in there that I know of that it gives us the information we need to make a decision.
I understand that.
Approve, Mr. Beasley?
I understand that.
I think this also, it says that we need to provide direction to staff to get into some additional information. I think that's the way I'd like to go.
Your request had written approval, council to approve, and we're not in a situation to do that
Right, I understand. I understand. I'm a salesman, so I like to close on the first day.
I'm just curious.
But no, I understand that. Yeah, we want to bring it before you, and so you have some information on it. You know, we're prepared to even go a step further. You know, I'd like to, if you guys would like, we could set up maybe a time where you can maybe come out and maybe drive some of these vehicles, actually sit in them, you know, see what they're all about. Because, you know, for most of you guys, you probably don't even really know what they are and how they handle. But I'd like to make that offer, put that offer on the table also.
I got two quick.
That's sounding exciting.
Well, they know about golf carts.
I got two questions.
Yes, sir.
What's the cost of them?
Well, Mr. Van, those could range anywhere from, you know, the sky's the limit, anywhere from $5,000 to there's vehicles that we sell now that are $22,000. You know, and I've got some people that you know, they enjoy these machines. And, you know, I could have brought a whole council room full of people that would stand behind me and say, yes, let's do this. So if you want signatures, you want people that will get on board, I think I can provide that. And like I said, we would like to have the opportunity, if you'd like, to come out and, you know, check these machines out, sit on them. They have steering wheels, they have seat belts, and some of these machines are capable of reaching speeds of above the speed limit. Let me put it that way.
But how safe are they on the street?
They would be very safe. I mean, like I said, they've got roll cages, they've got steering wheels, they got seat belts, but like I said, you would have to change the tires because the tires are off-road tires, and that'd probably be one of the requirements for the machine to be on the streets. You know, it's just like if you're driving your car has to be roadworthy, or you're not allowed on the street.
One of the things I would be terribly concerned about was, I think you said that you want them on 35 mile and under streets.
Yes.
So that would be Muskogee, Chandler, Maine, Martin Luther King.
Yes. You know, I would like to have it at 50, but I think if you get 50 mile an hour, now you're in the peak boulevard, and I think that is a state highway, so that'd probably be a problem. So, yeah, 35 mile an hour streets or less.
Yeah.
My suggestion would be we put this agenda item on for later, which is probably going to be the month of August.
Right.
The way we're looking right now, at least very late
Right.
July.
And, of course, all drivers
Yeah,
would be
there's some
licensed drivers. You know, they're going to have a driver's license to be able to drive them on the streets.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
May I ask one more question?
Sure.
Currently, you do not have to have a driver's license to operate these vehicles, so.
Because they're off-road, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes. But you do have to be 16 or older. So, last I checked, most 16-year-olds can get a driver's license.
But we could regulate it however you want. I do want to bring up, too, you know, one of the other advantages are there's a number of vehicles right now that do meet these same UTV or ROV vehicles that are electric.
Right.
You got them on the streets right now.
Right.
Yeah, you have them on the streets right now.
Yes.
But that are electric and that are moving to a more urban type setting that are for younger that want to be. So I think it's something to consider. Muskogee Schools has two right now that are more of on site. And, you know, for us to go get fuel for them, we have to load them up on a trailer and move them across town to get fuel for them legally. So, you know, it'd be an advantage for us that we could drive them on a street that would be, you know, marked at 35 miles per hour. But there are a number of ways that we can do it, but it would have to be really looked into. But I would really recommend that we look at a full policy that would be in place, a full ordinance that would be in place, and that we would have in place an annual inspection that would be a part of it.
Why don't we put it on our global calendar and bring it back up?
Yep,
You know,
absolutely.
August 1,
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, let's go from there.
Yeah.
Okay, so no action is actually needed on this item this evening, and we had one person sign up to speak, and we have taken care of that. So that concludes our
Thank you.
Public Works agenda.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. And we will now go to Special Call City Council. If I can get to the right answer. Okay, Special Call City Council meeting roll call.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
David Jones.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Leanne Langston.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here. Item number one.
Since we've got certain members that aren't here, and it is a city council meeting, do we have to
good
approve
thought.
their absence?
Has to be the charter only speaks to regular city council
Oh,
meetings, not
so
special.
call special, okay. I wonder where that. Thank you.
So now you know you can miss one.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact,
Consider approval of Resolution Number 2517, approving the City of Muskogee budget for fiscal year 2014-2015, or take other necessary action.
Ms. Brown.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, I'm required under city codes to provide you with a balance, with a budget every year, recommend a budget to you, and that's what I did last week at our June 9th public hearing and presentation. There were some questions that came up, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions you have at this time. The budget is balanced. It's required under Oklahoma law to ensure that the budget is balanced, and it is balanced. Subject to that concludes my presentation. If you'd like, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions related to this item.
Okay, question just for clarification. Did we need another public hearing on this, or it was totally optional? Okay.
You're only required to have one 15 days before.
Okay. And we're in the process of those meetings that you're meeting with staff, with council, for any questions that are arising.
Yeah, I've met with a couple, and there was, one of the items had to do with, I guess, the next ordinance, which is the delay of the $300,000 from the transfer from general fund to economic development fund, and we can speak on that item,
Okay.
next.
When do we anticipate having the budget on agenda for final approval?
Well, the budget was on the agenda last week for approval. The budget is on the agenda now. We've also uploaded the proposed budget to the website as well.
And we have to have it approved by the 26th?
23rd.
Next Monday.
Yeah.
Okay, next Monday. Okay. Is there comments or discussion regarding item number 1?
I would rather not approve it until all of us are here, and it would still give us additional time if we have other questions.
And we're a regular meeting next week, Monday
Right.
anyway. So
The one thing I would like to ask, though, and I don't disagree with that, but if you have a whole lot of questions, get with Mr. Brown ahead of time. He'll be glad to answer them all instead of taking, this could last a real long time if everyone had a whole list of questions and we just did it during the council meeting. So I just ask that if you have a bunch of questions, please, I'm sure Mr. Brown would entertain visiting with any of you and answer those questions. He did with me yesterday for an hour and a half. So.
any other comments or thoughts?
There was just a couple of things that's been coming up in my meetings. It's about setting aside funding for salaries of employees, and so, my budget recommendation sets aside about $804,000 for employee pay raise / Hay study implementation, those kinds of things. And the second thing was the delay of the general fund transfer to economic development fund. So those were the two biggest items that I've seen. And so, which, as you know, the transfer from economic development, from general fund to economic development requires an ordinance amendment. And so that's the second item on the agenda tonight.
Okay.
So, Councilor Langston, you're suggesting that you're making a motion, or does it need to be tabled because we need to give Councilors Gully and
I didn't perceive it as a motion. Was it made as a motion?
It wasn't. It was just part of discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, we'll go to item number 2.
Consider approval of an ordinance amending the City of Muskogee Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 74 Taxation, Article 8, Use Tax by amending Section 74-236, Dedication and Appropriation, providing for a 1-year delay of the 100% appropriation of use tax into the Economic Development Fund, providing for repealer, severability, and declaring an emergency, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker.
Mayor, members of the council, as the manager just said, I was asked to prepare an ordinance that would suspend the allocation of $300,000 from the Economic Development Fund and allow that to remain in the general fund. In order to facilitate that, what we were required to do is make a change on the implementation of the dedication and apportionment. In Section 74-236, when this ordinance was first established, 50% of the use tax went into the newly created Economic Development Fund, 50% went into the general fund. In fiscal year 2013, that upped from 75% into economic development and 25% into the general fund. Beginning July 1st, 2014, according to the ordinance pre-amendment, 100% of the use tax proceeds were to go into the Economic Development Fund. In order to suspend $300,000 from the Economic Development Fund into the general fund, what I did was insert an additional date within the dedication and apportionment section of the use tax ordinance. And as a result, for fiscal years beginning July 1, 2013 and July 1, 2014, 75% of the use tax levy will go into the Economic Development Fund, with 25% going into the general fund. And that 25% does represent the $300,000. And so if this ordinance was approved, then $300,000 would be placed into the general fund to be allocated however the council sees fit.
There's a one-time, 1 year.
Yes.
Change. We don't have to come back and change this.
You do not, because there is another section in here that says beginning fiscal year July 1, 2015, 100% of the levy, the use tax levy, goes into the Economic Development Fund.
Okay, and just a point of question. Is there anything going on development-wise that transferring this $300,000 one time is going to change or alter the existing program of retail economic development? Mr. Brown?
No. The only thing that we have pending is what you'll see probably next month is the Quick Trip agreement. That'll be making its way to the podium, and it's about $311,000. That's what's in the fund now, and that's what we'll be spending on the Quick Trip deal.
So it will not alter anything that's in place?
That's correct.
Okay. Are there other questions or comments regarding this item?
How will we use the funds that we're going to divert from the fund?
Well, the recommendation is to use that fund to do a one-time stipend for our city employees, all unions. Oh, I'm sorry, all employees. It's a one-time stipend to be used for all city employees. Goal is, since there's no pay raise in that recommendation, to use the 2% one-time stipend to kind of help us put back into our local economy. The majority of our employees live in the city, and so I think what will happen is they'll spend most of their money here in the city. So that's one way we are trying to achieve that kind of mission. So.
Can I clarify something, Mr. Brown?
Yeah.
That, of course, is subject to negotiation with the collective bargaining units.
Other comments or questions?
Mr. Brown, at this present point, do we have any kind of economic plan, just committee or anything like that in place?
We don't. But as you know, a couple of months ago, I was directed by the City Council to bring back a plan of action on how to create a business and economic development department. And I believe at that point, subject to your approval, we'll probably have something that, that will get approved, hopefully. So, but at this point, we don't. Right now, we have two partners that do a lot of the work for us. A lot of the heavy lifting right now, administrator's ordinance, is being done by the Port Authority. As you know, about $500-something thousand is being spent right now at the Port Authority, really kind of carrying out the intent of this economic development fund and the ordinance.
Well, I know it's got to be, Attorney Tucker said, it's got to be union approved, but I think this $300,000 should go to the employees because they deserve it. They're long overdue, and like I say, I'll make a motion to put that $300,000 to be done for that purpose.
So you're stating it just like we have it on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
Do we know from past years how much money has been spent out of the fund that was not port related?
There's
There hasn't been any.
there's been no money spent out of that fund, only to the Port Authority, and I think we have something coming, and that's the Quick Trip.
And are we confident that there's no other way to fund this $300,000 from the general fund?
Well, I don't. Let me state another way. The recommendation that I put together is based on Hay study implementation and the stipends for all employees, and so that was my recommendation. I don't see any other way to do it than this way, but could be another way. Could be another way, but this is a stipend, not a pay increase, and that's kind of where I was at with it.
I know when this idea was first brought up, I was against it when I first heard it for several reasons. A firm believer and strong believer in economic development in Muskogee, as are the rest of the council members. But the more we got into it, the way I see it, I mean, we've got so much in expenses. If we don't take the $300,000 here, then we're going to have to cut our expenses somewhere, $300,000. I mean, the budget has to balance. And I thought, but, you know, I'm a strong believer in economic development, but I really firmly believe that if something did come up that was an emergency, that we could visit with our friends at the foundation, and if it was really good for Muskogee, I know that's their intent, we could possibly get some assistance there. So I have changed my mind, and I am in favor of this at this time. And we had an unusual year. I mean, our sales tax was actually down or even, and and we can expect a better year this year, and hopefully sales tax will be up, and it'll balance without having to take any other action next year.
We're actually on a 1 month run of increased sales.
That's right. So we're going to start off right.
Yeah.
Well, if Mr. Jones is for it, boy, I tell you what, I know we own the money.
We had a motion. Did we have a second?
I thought we had a second.
You do.
Did we have a second? We got a second. Okay, got a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
No.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Audrey Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. I'm assuming.
Yes, it does require
Okay.
6, and there were 6, and
Okay.
there is also an emergency.
Item so we need to declare an emergency?
Yes.
Need to hear a motion regarding.
Move for an emergency.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 3.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Consider entering into a Groupon merchant agreement for marketing and promotional services at River Country Family Water Park or take other necessary action.
Mr. Wilkerson, I'm not seeing is somebody speaking to that. Ms. Hall, we'd rather have you anyway. You're a lot prettier. Introduce yourself in case somebody doesn't know you.
For a call with the Swim and Fitness Center, Parks and Rec Department, we have an opportunity to work with Groupon, which is a coupon, day of the deal, a subscriber-based kind of web marketing is how we view it. Kevin Anthus has specifically been working with Groupon on the details, but we like what they have to offer. The marketing aspect is huge. They have, just in the Tulsa area, over 219,000 subscribers that would see this deal of the day with River Country Water Park. So that's what we're requesting. We would love approval. If you need more details, we have more details.
From a return on investment standpoint, if you put it out there to 200,000 people, statistically, how many are going to take you up on it? And then what's the impact of revenue?
Well, depending on how many, we have a limit on how many deals that we will sell through Groupon. And right now, the max that we have right now is 556 set up, so that, once those are purchased, they're done and the deal is over. And there's a few different options there listed out. I didn't know if you saw in the background, but we're really not. I guess we're kind of just decreasing our price, and they're getting a deal, so we're not spending money as far as on advertising, but we're still getting that advertising benefit through them, through their deal of the day. We're on their webpage for about a week at a time, or a week straight, and then we're still on the front page, that is, sorry. We're on the front page for a week straight, and then after that we'll move to the, a list of different general local business list. I'm sorry, did I answer your question completely?
You got it. Yes, sir.
Now, the water park's been self-sustaining, right?
Yes.
So we don't have to put any money in there.
That's the reason I didn't want us to get into a hole.
Yeah.
When we're putting money into it.
Okay.
How are other cities faring if they have done this type of activity with Groupon?
Big Splash has their deal. Sometimes, you'll see that prior to the summer, trying to gather some sales prior to summer. Ours, we're doing after the summer began. The way we look at it from a marketing aspect, and we try to be creative. I handle the swim and fitness and water park marketing. But, our population at the water park will age out. So it's important that every few years we kind of get the word out, because about 10 and older, the kids outgrow it. And we need this new wave of customers that come to the water park with young kids. I don't know directly numbers and success of other facilities or cities that have done water park.
That's why we need to be looking at additional older expansion area of the water park. Isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it is a great way of getting our regional type advertising out there, and just a neat, out-of-the-box idea. I think it's great.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Oh, we have a second. We'll get a motion in a second. Is there discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 4.
Discuss and take possible action on authorizing staff to negotiate for the acquisition of a parcel of property located near D Street in Cincinnati, owned by the Muskogee Little Theater Incorporated, and to accept interest in the same to ensure marketable title.
Mr. Tucker.
Mayor, members of the council, as you all know, we have been in talks with the Board of County Commissioners to relocate the Juvenile Detention Center from its existing location on Shawnee to another location. Mayor Coburn and I went to the Board of County Commissioners several weeks back, and with working with city staff and county staff, we were able to present 3 viable options for properties that we were confident that we would be able to acquire for that relocation. Those were presented to the Board of County Commissioners, and the board voted to approve relocation to the site where the existing Muskogee Little Theater property is, on D in Cincinnati. Now, as the council also knows, there is another parcel of property that the city owned that was donated to the Muskogee Little Theater for purpose of for constructing their new facility. So we have been talking with Chad Locke, who's from their board, and Connie Wetz, their executive director, on the best way for the city to acquire the Muskogee Little Theater property. The property was sold to Muskogee Little Theater from the public school system, Muskogee Public School District. Within the deed in 1971, there was a reversionary clause which said, in essence, if the Muskogee Little Theater ceases to operate and dissolves, then the property that they own revert to the school board. Mayor Coburn and I have also talked with Mike Gard, John Barton on the school board, and the superintendent, respectively, to discuss their position on the reversionary clause. Luckily, they are in agreement to quitclaim their reversionary interest to the city to give us clear title if we're able to acquire the property from Muskogee Little Theater. In fact, that is on the school board's agenda for tonight. I did verify that. So I'm asking you for 2 things. One is to accept that beneficial interest from the school district. And second is to authorize staff to work with the Muskogee Little Theater in order to see what agreement we can come with to acquire their property. Anything has been discussed from a general conveyance for no consideration or our agreement to pay the electrical expenses for the new facility for a period of 5 years. I mean, there have been a number of things that have been unofficially discussed with myself and Mayor Coburn, and we're not prepared to bring any of those to you today because we haven't fleshed them out yet. But what we'd like, or what I would like, is for authority to move forward to reach out to Muskogee Little Theater and see what agreement we can come up with to acquire the property. Now, once we acquire the property, then we will need to convey it to the Muskogee Redevelopment Authority for purposes of constructing the juvenile detention center. The plan is that we can do that a whole lot faster than the Board of County Commissioners can do it. We have the same statutory procedures, but we have more staff than they do, so we can move it along a little bit faster. And the guidelines for the creation of a juvenile detention facility are established by the Office of Juvenile Affairs. So there's really not a lot of dispute as to what type of facility needs to be built because it's set forth in the rules. Once that facility is made, of course, we will, the Redevelopment Authority will seek financing in order to do that. And then we will enter into an agreement with the county, which I'm working on now, for them to convey the property where the existing juvenile detention center is, and then for us to convey the new juvenile detention center to the county. So that's the larger plan, which will require a lot of paperwork that I'm still working on, and so I'll bring that forward to the city and the Muskogee Redevelopment Authority. But that latter part of my discussion is just to sort of give you the understanding of what we're trying to do in order, and all of this, of course, is for purposes of redeveloping the urban renewal area. And so that's a lot of detail, but what I'm looking for is authorization to reach out to Muskogee Little Theater to negotiate the acquisition of their property, and for you all to approve accepting the beneficial interest from the Muskogee Public Schools.
Can I make one point of clarification? We're also working with Board President David Eckerson in addition to Mr. Locke and Mrs. Wetz that you'd already previously mentioned.
Thank you.
Any comments regarding, or do I hear a motion?
Do we need two motions or one?
One.
One.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 5.
Oh, excuse me just a second. We passed this, but if we reach an agreement, do we have to approve what we acquire it for? Good. Okay.
Discuss and take, I'm sorry.
He's finished.
Okay. Discuss and take possible action authorizing the filing of a civil action in district court in and for Muskogee County to remedy a zoning violation occurring at 3210 North York Street.
Mr. Tucker, and we have someone who has signed up for this item to speak to it as well.
Thank you, Mayor. This is going to be a joint discussion amongst all of us and Gary Garvin, who has been helpful in this arena. As you all may have heard, there is a motocross track that is operating on 3210 North York Street in violation of the existing zoning regulations for that parcel of property. And we have been approached by several concerned citizens because of the noise, which caused us to look into the zoning classification and determine that it is not zoned properly. And so under our Code of Ordinances, we have several options. We can issue citations, which we believe would be ineffective since this motocross event is a two-day event. And secondly, we can file a civil action seeking injunctive relief, and that's what we're seeking authorization from the council to do. One of the questions that has been asked of me is, why does this need to come before the council? Since this is clearly a zoning violation, why can't I just march over to district court and get that action enjoined? There was a city council policy that was adopted in 2010, which authorized the city attorney, without further action of the council, to file a lawsuit to collect the money, to collect sums due to the city of less than $2,000. Anything above that or anything related to any other type of civil action did require city council approval. And so that's why we're bringing this up to you rather than simply going forward and following the action. Plus, as having worked with you all for a number of years, I do know that you all appreciate to know when you're going to see the city of Muskogee versus someone in the newspaper. So I think that's probably a good practice nonetheless. Gary, can you talk a little bit about the allowed use in the zoning area?
Okay. And actually, the way this got started, it was originally designed as a private track for private use of the property owners. And we got some complaints on it at that time, but it was not a zoning violation. Then they held an event that was open to the public where they collected fees for them to come there and race. And after that event was over, we got a lot of calls from the neighbors about the complaints. Then we looked into the actual zoning because then it was no longer a private track, it was a public track. At that point, we found that it was zoned, and the front half of the property is zoned industrial, J Riverfront Industrial, the back half is zoned to be single-family dwelling. We notified the owner that he was in violation of the zoning regulations. Then we saw in the paper and had some property owners come up and notify us that he was having another event. So we called up the property owner and told him again that he is in violation of zoning regulations. He would need to get it rezoned. He is also in violation of the parking, hard surface parking requirements. Because anytime you have an event and out there for the public, you're supposed to have hard surface parking. Informed him that we would issue citations if the event happened. It rained that weekend. The event was postponed. It's my understanding they're going to have the event at a later date. I therefore sent him a letter stating in writing that he was in violation of zoning regulations, that the property is on J Riverfront. If you look up the uses for J Riverfront, it has to be a use that is associated with the river, uses the river or the waterway. The motocross event does not do that. The back half is zoned to be single family, which will not allow any type of commercial use. The property owner did receive the notice, and he has been informed. Now, whether
notice was sent certified mail, I'm assuming?
It was sent certified mail
and regular.
Yes, we did both.
Okay.
And of course, if the council authorizes the filing of the action, we of course will serve him with that suit. So he'll of course be entitled to all of his due process hearing. All this action does is simply authorize me to go to court and seek injunctive relief to prevent this.
Does that stop a race that's scheduled for this weekend if there's one for this weekend?
I have not heard when it's going to be rescheduled.
We've planned to get the paperwork filed tomorrow. I believe there's a 5-day period that we've got to get him served before the hearing can be set. So we will work as quickly as we possibly can to get that done.
I would think we could find him.
Well, yes. I'm not worried about the service.
Other comments? We've got we also have somebody in the audience who wants to speak to it, so do we want to do that before we start to discuss?
Yeah, let's do it
Okay.
first.
Mr.
Then we
Roper,
can
you
discuss it.
come to
Okay?
That's fine. Mr. Roper, if you would come and give us your name and your address, sir, and we'll talk to you regarding item number 5.
Okay. Well, Charles Raper is my name. 3205 Chelsea Lane is my address. I don't have anything else to say other than if you guys will get this injunction. This is something the guy's been warned for over a year. He ignores it. He has scheduled events and just totally ignores everything he's been told. And I think you even need to look into ordinances. I mean, these things are not appropriate in as close as they are to the mayor's residence and mine. I mean, this thing's right in our back doors. But that's beside the point. It's illegal. He's been doing it illegally, and it needs to be stopped. And apparently that's the only way we can stop it. That's what I've been told. So that's why I suggested this be done.
All right, sir. Appreciate your input. Thank you, Charles. Okay.
I just don't. What is a motocross racetrack for my background, so I can know what this is that they're doing? What are they racing?
Motorcycles. Two-wheel motorcycles.
Motorcycles.
And it's done on berms of dirt.
Cross country,
jumps,
fly,
that kind of thing.
Go around.
Around an oval.
It's kind of like a,
Yeah.
A dirt bike.
It's a dirt bike.
It's a dirt bike, and they are very
But
loud.
they're real loud, yeah.
Very loud. No mufflers.
motorized horse.
Yeah.
Motorized horse.
If you live anywhere within 3 to 5 miles of it, you're going to hear it. And they start at 7 o'clock in the morning on Sundays.
And on Saturday and Sunday, as I recall.
Yeah, you can hear it. People complain about it down at the country club playing golf. They can't concentrate playing golf for the noise from these things. I've heard that from a number of people, and we certainly can't sleep.
Mr. Raper, is it louder than where I live on Midland Valley, where we used to have a race track? You know, where the race cars, stock cars.
Very similar.
Similar.
It's very similar.
I kind of got used to that one, baby, being on Friday.
Let's move it down to your neighborhood.
Thunderbird Speedway. Yeah.
And since he's been notified, has he tried to apply to rezone?
Haven't received
Or
any
anything?
application to rezone.
But
He was
he had
notified after the last event that he needed to rezone or take some action.
Which was a year ago.
Yes, and he never did do anything about it. And then, like I say, when it came to our attention that he was having another one, we called him again and informed him if he did have the event, we were going to be there on Saturday and Sunday, and we were going to issue citations. The event was then canceled, so that's when we sent him the notice, inform him in writing of the violation, so that possibly further action could be taken if needed.
And Mr. Garvin, just so for clarity, we're only authorized to issue citations, and so that's it. So if we issue a citation to someone, we can go back the next day, I guess, issue another
We
citation.
can issue the citation daily, we just cannot force him to stop.
What a citation is $225 or something.
And for a 2-day event, it'd cost him $500 roughly for the 2
Yeah,
days.
he'll get $5,000 in fees. It's almost painless. Okay. So what action have we taken regarding, or what do we need to take?
I'm looking for a motion to authorize the city attorney to file an action district court to present the ongoing zoning violation.
Open to entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries, and that concludes our agenda for the special call meeting, council meeting, and we will now go to the Muskogee Parking Authority. Special call meeting. Roll call.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
David Jones.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Leanne Langston.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
Item number 1.
Consider approval of minutes of December 9th, 2013.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Item number 1.
Consider approval of Resolution Number 2519, approving the City of Muskogee Parking Authority budget for fiscal year 2014-2015, or take other necessary action.
Whose item is that?
Yeah, that's
Mr. Brown.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor and Council. As you know, we have three different funds that require 3 separate actions. This is I'm asking that you approve resolution number 2519, approving the City of Muscogee's Parking Authority's budget for fiscal year 2014-2015. This is our parking authority. We have approximately $155,000 in appropriations and a grand total of $870,085 in that fund. I'm asking that you approve this resolution, consistent with the attached ordinance.
Move for approval.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. That concludes the Muskogee Parking Authority. We'll now go to the Muskogee Municipal Authority. And roll call.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
David Jones.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Leanne Langston.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
Pam, I notice we don't have a minutes on this. Do we?
Right.
Is it word?
We don't.
Okay.
MMA will do that at the regular meeting 1st of July.
Okay. All right, item number 1.
Consider approval of Resolution 2518, approving the Muskogee Municipal Authority budget for fiscal year 2014-2015, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm asking that you approve resolution number 2518, adopting the budget for fiscal year 2014-2015 for the Muskogee Municipal Authority, also known as our Water and Sewer Authority.
Move for approval.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion regarding? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor David Jones.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries, and that concludes our agenda for the special call municipal authority. And that concludes our agendas for today. Thank you.